till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shia Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you find shade this day. Sarah, have you found shade this day?
I have. Have you, Adam?
Yeah, I feel like I found enough to cover me tomorrow, too.
That's a lot of shade.
I feel like, is there a way to just save the shade that you find? You're like, man, I have an excess of shade.
Mm-hmm.
Can I save it for tomorrow?
I don't think you can.
Okay. Oh, that's disappointing.
You could be screwed tomorrow.
You're right. I was going to make that dirty, but decided not to.
On that happy note.
Yeah, or unhappy, depending on how that goes. So, oh man, did we get a spit take? Yes. Good.
I think I would learn by now that I should not drink when we interact.
I'm too funny. You're right. It's more like I'm more too shocking. I'm outrageous.
That's what it is.
Jarring.
Oh man.
It's not okay.
You're just so happy you got that one on video.
I know. Well, we had one earlier today. You are spit take prone today.
I am. What is wrong with me? All right. I need to stop being so inviting to this nonsense. All right, carrying on.
Yeah, those death sticks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm alluding to the idea that maybe you want to go home and rethink your life is all.
That's kind of sad.
That was unduly mean of me.
It was rude.
I apologize.
Do you?
No. All right. So
okay.
we've got a good long while now of you spit taking. So let's. What are we talking about today, Sarah? We're not starting my favorite book in the Wheel of Time series or anything, right?
No, we're not starting book 4 at all.
Okay, very well. Goodbye.
Oh, sad. We're starting the Shadow Rising.
Heck yeah.
I keep wanting to call it the Rising Shadow, and I know it's wrong.
Okay, I acknowledge that it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why, but I don't know. Anyway, carrying on. So we're going to do the first 10 chapters of that. We started it. We read it. Yeah. And I have a tiny bit of show news. 2 things of show news, really.
Okay, so for spoilers, for people who aren't used to our stuff, all spoilers. So all the books leading up to this is book 4. So everything leading up to this point in the books, book 1, 2, and 3, this doesn't include the new spring or whatever it is, the prequel book.
Right.
A new spring, perhaps. So it doesn't include that. It does include the first season of the show. We can talk about all those things, and then I will probably at some point. I think that it's important to give really super duper generalized, here and there spoilers. Nothing specific to I don't want to ruin specific facts or ideas, but like things that are just generally, like understood in this world, or like will be revealed eventually, that aren't big secrets. I feel like that adds more to the context of things.
Yeah,
right?
That's totally valid. I feel like I have things that I don't fully understand or have questions and like would have questions about. And if I had more general knowledge, it might help.
Yeah.
I think if it's something that I wasn't meant to understand, then I think you would know not to tell me if I were to ask a question.
I think so. Well, right. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to ruin the story. I think that this world is so big and everything. One thing I was thinking of is maybe we should just actually clarify to people like our level of knowledge of these books, right? Just in general, because we haven't said that for a long time, and we haven't. I feel like people would. They're like, why does Adam like just talk about random crap about this series? And Sarah's like, you say like less about what happens in book 5 or whatever,
Right. So, okay. So how many times, including this, how many times would you say you've read the books?
So it's not an exact number, because there's times that I've only read book 4. Or there's times that I've read up to book 4, or there's times that I read book 4 and then decided to just continue from book 4. Mm-hmm. It's almost always book 4 is like the catalyst, that one, or book 11. Those are the two that I'll start on or like have the goal of getting to. And so otherwise, I think it's safe to say I've read all of the books 4 times.
Okay.
And I'd say book 4, I bet I've read it 10 times.
Oh, wow.
I would be surprised if it was any less than that. Like it'd have to be like 9. I'm sure that it's close to 10.
Right. Okay.
What about you?
I have read books 1, 2, and 3 once. I've read nothing else. I know nothing. Jon Snow.
You are just Jon Snow.
I'm Jon Snow. Yeah. So I'm just kind of going in blind. Which is why, like, I think that there are things that I would appreciate a broader knowledge on. And there are things that I think that make sense that I don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So, it's fun to have the newer reader and hear what you have to say about it. And then, mm-hmm. I can fill in with the bigger, the broader picture of things every once in a while.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Not to mention the non-Canadian perspective is also really important to have. So I can provide that.
Right. Very super important.
Right. I feel like you want me to say something about stick handling, and I'm not doing it this time.
Oh, man. All right. So do you want to get into a little bit of the show news before we start the book?
Yeah. What do you got for us, Sarah?
Cool. So 2 casting confirmations, if you would call them that. I guess, yeah, they're confirmed. They're on their CVs. So they did cast Bale Goman.
Nice.
And he is going to be played by Julian Lewis Jones. I don't think I've heard of the stuff that he's in. I've just never actually like watched any of it. And then
better than me.
Yeah. The Harry Potter nerd in me loves this. So Katie Lung is going to be cast as Jessica. I have no idea who Jessica.
That's not a character.
It's not a character. Well, she's cast. That's who she's playing.
Didn't we talk about this last time? Actually, you said that if there was a character called some nonsense name, and it could have been a code word or something.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe that's what this is. So she played, for reference, she played Cho Chang in Harry Potter.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You care deeply.
I thought I like Cho Chang better than Weasley. So
what is wrong with you?
I don't know. I probably actually, you know what? I don't actually remember why I bet that it's because I thought she was more attractive. Like the actress was more attractive. I bet that's what it is.
Oh, man. Okay.
But
No one likes Cho more than, I'm assuming you're talking about Ginny Weasley.
yeah.
Yeah. No, man. All right. We won't get into this. This is a whole other discussion.
You know what? If we ever choose to read Harry Potter on this podcast, you can school me. All right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so those are the two I got for you. 2 more castings. I don't know who Jessica is. Maybe it's a code name.
I keep wanting to make a joke about instead of yes, like no, but like none of the plays on words that I'm trying for are gonna work. So instead, let's move on to the book, perhaps.
Yeah. So again, reminder.
Yes.
Jessica.
Yes. Let's do
Jessica. First 10 chapters of The Shadow Rising. So no prologue.
So enjoy it while it lasts, because I think next book is the beginning of the 100-page prologues.
Oh, really?
Like we may need an entire episode based off of just the prologue kind of thing. Like it's not always this, but a lot of times what'll happen is like Robert Jordan likes to expand our view of what's happening in the world. And so he'll give us, in the prologue, 3 or 4 pages on what's going on with the White Cloaks, 3 or 4 pages of what's going on with some Black Aja group,
right?
Some group of Aes Sedai, some group of, this, that, and the other. And so that's what to expect with prologues. And they're not all 100 pages, but some of them literally are 100 pages or so. I think, if I remember correctly. So we'll have to actually gauge that when we're starting the next book, because some of them it's gonna be like, well, it takes 3 hours to listen to. Maybe we don't go 10 chapters.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that's good to know. But no prologue this time.
Yeah, it's like the calm before the storm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the rising shadow.
It is what it's like.
Mm-hmm. The shadow is rising.
But these first 2 chapters were long.
They were
lengthy. There's a lot going on in here. Okay, so chapter 1 is Seeds of Shadow.
There's a lot of that's what she said stuff going on there too.
Oh dear. Oh man. So this is from Min's point of view, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Don't you mean Elmendretta?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, exactly. So her full name is Elmendretta, but she's headed to the White Tower. She's getting there.
That name is Elmend Dreadful.
Oh man, it's so bad. It's so we'll get into it in one second when she mentions it. But anyway, so she's going there because she's got to go see the Almirall Sea, because that's where Moraine sent her. And she gets to the White Tower and she tells there's an accepted there, and she's like, yeah, I need to speak with the Almirall Sea. And this accepted is kind of like, well, she's really busy. She's not probably not going to have time for you. It's kind of haughty how she says it, but
this is the one that we're supposed to really dislike.
Okay.
This is, I forget if it's Faelaine or I think it's Faelaine.
I think it's Faelaine, if I remember correct. But yeah, I did not like her. I was like, you're kind of got a little chip on your shoulder there, lady.
Right. She's clearly being typecast to be a red sister. Did
not enjoy. But she does say, Min's like, well, I know my rights, and that, I can ask to see her and all this stuff, and tell her that Elmendretta is here, because that's, her full name. For some reason, because obviously I'm listening to the books, not actually physically reading them. I envisioned it like Elmendretta as two names. Totally not important at all, but I envisioned it as Elman and Dretta.
Dreda.
And
I like it.
I don't know. It's a terrible name, Elmendreda.
Horrific.
Oh,
Elman Dreadful.
It's terrible. Yuck. Anyway, on that happy note, so this accepted ghost tell her this, and Min's having all these viewings in the meantime. She's, multiple Aes Sedai dying on the same day. She's seeing like bars in front of an accepted, like they're in a cage. She's just seeing all this kind of stuff that are basically signaling like
pretty gloomy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's gonna be some pretty awful stuff happening.
What do you think it is?
I don't know if, I mean, so she does go see the Armelin and the Armelin is convinced that it's going to be the Black Aja that does this, but I don't know if it is.
Okay.
Maybe. I mean, it's obviously somebody attacking the Aes Sedai and like their warders, because, well, of course they're warders too, but and caging them, which is interesting.
It is interesting.
Screams of Sean Chan to me.
Okay, that's a good idea. I mean, obviously I can't give it away. I'm curious to know.
Yeah,
That's our.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I don't envision Trollocs and Dark Friends and Murdral putting them in cages.
Sure. I mean that they would for Aes Sedai just so they could turn them to the Dark One, but
maybe.
But
I guess.
But I mean,
I just envision them being associated with carnage more versus.
Sure. Versus like
captivity.
You surrendered. We'll give you quarter kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so she sees these dreadful things.
Yeah, she does. One of the things she sees, and I just want to mention it because I thought it was interesting, is that she sees Shiriam
seashells by
the seashore. But oh man, I can't.
She sees Shiriam selling seashells.
Oh man. So Shiriam is like all beaten and bruised, like in one of these viewings, which I thought was interesting because Shiriam is still on my sketch list.
Okay.
I still don't trust her. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily, just because she sees her here, that doesn't mean that she's good. It just means she's going to be injured.
Right. Like you would hope that if she's bad that she'd get injured. Gosh, right. This sounds so brutal of me.
That sounds real harsh.
Gosh, this podcast has been bringing out the worst in me.
Oh man. Oh, awkward.
It's okay.
Ooh.
Shut it. Get all judgy. Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. You gotta be judgy.
Oh, this is why I tied it to the Sean Chan. Because as she's walking to the Armelin seat, because then, this accepted Fairland comes back and is like, oh, she'll see you, and is all surprised about this because, chip on her shoulder gets knocked down a peg here. Min continues to have these viewings, and she sees an Aes Sedai in like a silver bracelet or collar or something, and it immediately made me think of the Sean Chan and the Damani.
Okay, that makes sense.
That was just where my brain immediately went.
All right, so there's things going on.
Yeah, there's things going on. Anyway, she runs into Gawain, and Gawain immediately recognizes her, and which is, surprising because she's trying to be discreet and in a disguise. And he's asking about Elaine and all this stuff, and then she finally gets to the Armelin seat and tells her about all of these viewings that she's had in the process. And that's when the Armelin is like, it's going to be the Black Aja. It's not going to be the Sean Chan. It's not going to be it's going to be the Black Aja that does this, and then convinces Min to stay there and kind of seek refuge in the White Tower under her full name, Elmendreda. And
there's some pretty dresses.
Yeah. And oh man, which she hates. And it's great to hear how much she hates them. I find it very entertaining. It's just very like, I just like seeing this little bit of character. It's really colorful.
Yeah, well, she's gonna have to learn that it's important to be uncomfortable in life sometimes.
So I did laugh though when the Omelency was like, yeah, we'll just tell them that you have all of these suitors and you can't make up your mind. I was like, you can do that.
I know, you seek refuge at the White Tower for stupid crap like that. Yeah,
like that seems like a silly thing.
So one thing I thought was interesting about this segment was any woman can petition to see the Amerlin seat. Like you can like essentially force your way into it if you want to.
Right.
If you want to say, hey, I'm gonna see the Amerlin, like sign me up. I'm going to see the Amerlin right now, like, or not, maybe not right now, but I have a right to do that. Like that's actually written into their bylaws or whatever, law they have. And, but it's only for women.
That is interesting.
So like you and I go to the White Tower. I try to see the Amerlin and they laugh at me. You try to see the Amerlin. Maybe they laugh at you, but if you're insistent enough, then you eventually do get to see her. Whereas I just probably get thrown out on my head.
Right. You get laughed off stage.
Yeah. Or they just like whip me with cords of air.
Right.
Or something dramatic and awful. But
as one does.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like one of the things that this series really does highlight to some degree at least is like, well, I don't know, like it seems like sometimes he doesn't want to have the discussion, but he still like can't help himself. Like he talks about men and women dynamics so much, and like women are, oh, those men, they do all these terrible things, and men, oh, those women, they do terrible things, and they're all exasperated with each other. But things like this, like a law that only lets one group in, like to have access, and then only women can ask for sanctuary as well, like, well, no men can. And whereas I think that in general in society, like women probably do have a higher rate of needing like kind of refuge, so to speak, that men absolutely, there are a lot of circumstances where men need to have that as well. So this inequality is just very interesting to me. Like the women hold all the power,
right?
And I don't know, it's just interesting, worth noting. That's all.
It is, and it's noticeable because it's opposite in a lot of cultures.
Oh yeah, yep, opposite to what a lot of what's going on in our modern day stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we kind of switch points of view, and we're with Elida, and she's just, spying on the chamber here, listening on everything that's going on. She knows it's Min, and like saw through her disguise as well, which, also makes me think that Min did not disguise herself very well if she's got people recognizing her. But Elida, so she's just convinced that she needs to stop Rand from destroying Andor, and she needs to stop Swan, and she's just convinced that Swan and Moraine basically are working on this ridiculous like conspiracy of sorts. Basically, she is convinced it's been going on since they were part of the Accepted, and
it shows how perceptive she really is.
Right, it does, but it also is just very like what's going on. And she's just so on this about stopping them. I don't know, it kind of like makes me want to pay more attention. I didn't like Elida from the very first introduction of her,
right?
And I definitely don't like her now. Like now I'm like, well, what are you doing? And like this is all very interesting, but
well, because we like the Amerlin, and anyone who opposes the Amerlin, we're going to probably oppose ourselves, right?
Right, which is fair. It's just all, I don't know. It's interesting. And then Alviarin ends up seeing her, and they decide to like go for a walk, and Elida just kind of dumps her theory onto her and is like, this is what I think, and gotta stop them. So yeah, gains a little bit of an ally here.
All right, so
sus
list
is growing.
Okay, so candidates for the most sus here.
Yeah, for sure candidates. Okay, yes, and then we're going all over in chapter 1. Like chapter 1 is massive.
This is very similar to the prologues, by the way.
Right. Okay, for the upcoming.
Yeah, this is chapter 1, but this is similar. Just like, okay, we see Min, who's so far she's been a pretty minor character. She's been a Min-her character.
Right.
But then we see Elida, and now we're gonna see Dane Bornhald for a few minutes.
Yeah, literally, like he's just leading these white cloaks into the two rivers, because that's the orders he's been given by the High Captain Commander.
By the Lord Captain Commander,
yeah. And he's also kind of just stewing about his father's death because he's still angry about it, which is, I think, understandable.
Well, and the information he's heard is unreliable, but he trusts it anyways. So he's just, he hates Perrin.
Yeah.
And he hates the Aes Sedai because he thinks that those two killed his dad, even though we know that that's false.
Right. Exactly.
And he's got a friend with him.
Who's with him? I didn't realize. Who's with him?
Oh, Padden Fane.
Oh.
Or he calls him Ordeith.
You can't believe I missed that.
Yeah, it's Padden Fane, because so in book 3, Ordeith is hanging out with the Lord Captain Commander, with Pedronile.
Yeah.
And advising him, and then he goes with so now he's going with Dane Bornhald, and that's how, like, he talks under his breath about how he's going to flay this, like do all these awful things to the two rivers.
Yeah,
that's so, and he murders 3 Tinkers as well. So yeah, it's that's a very important point. If you missed it, you absolutely need to realize Padden Fane is in the two rivers.
Yikes, that's not good.
They're set in a little army.
No, not good. And then it's good for us for entertainment, not good for them.
Oh.
Okay, and then finally in chapter 1 we go to Suroth, which we have not seen for a while. And she's taken the Shan-Chan to Kintorin, I believe.
Okay.
And they also are focusing on Rand and the dragon and needing to stop him. And there is a Damani there, Pura, who used to be an Aes Sedai, and Suroth's kind of questioning her on what she knows about the Dragon Reborn and how the White Tower would interact and what the White Tower would want from him and all this stuff. And she's just like, I don't know anything, and kind
of, what do you want from me?
Yeah, like keeps going over this. And this is just really awful. It's basically just, essentially begging for them not to punish her for not knowing.
Yeah, she's worse than a slave.
Right.
Really.
Right. And then
it's horrific.
Yeah, and just like she doesn't have any info, which Suroth doesn't believe. She's like, well, she could probably, she
doesn't care either.
Yeah.
It's we'll just keep asking her until we just,
I think she says something along, I should have made a note, but she says something along the lines about Aes Sedai not being able to lie, but kind of being able to lie, and she just doesn't believe that
Well, she knows that they can kind of make the truth stand on end.
Right.
You know, you can say a thing and obfuscate the truth, but she did, like, she couldn't force them to say something like something that was black was white. Like, they couldn't say that out, like, after hours of torture and whatever, like, they still couldn't do it. Which, you know, but yeah, she's just, I mean, I'd be suspicious too. Like, not that I think that her methods are good or whatever, but
right.
I mean, I'd be like, well, what if you don't know all the rules here? Like, okay, so they can't tell a lie about black and white, but does that apply to every single thing? Like, could they tell a lie about, like, green versus blue?
Right.
You know, like, you can't test everything. And so, and what if it matters to you more? Like, what if there's some kind of chemical, you know, thing in your brain that allows you to lie about things that are really important? Like, I'd be like, well, maybe they have built in fail safes of, like, okay, I can't lie about simple things, so then that kind of helps people think that you can't lie about bigger. Like, I would just suspect, like, you know, why should I believe that you're telling the absolute truth
right
here? Like, she has no reason to actually believe that.
Right, which is fair. Yeah, but she's focusing on, you know, needing to deal with Rand and all that, which, so you now have Elida and the Shanshan are like, we got to deal with Rand.
Oh man, I guess so messy. You'll see.
Oh man. Okay. Okay, so chapter 2.
Wow, we've spent a long time talking about one. Okay.
I know. Two. All right, so also the same idea, whirlpools in the pattern, so where we're hopping around points of view here, but we're basically with Perrin, Matt, and Rand. So it's been about 2 weeks since the stone, that whole scenario with Rand declaring himself the dragon, etc. And Perrin is basically, or Fael is trying to convince Perrin to leave Tyr with her, and he won't, because he's like, well, I'm Ta'Veren and I'm tied to Rand and I gotta stay with Rand and all this. And during this whole interaction, his axe out of nowhere, so they hear a rooster crow, and then his axe flies towards them, basically tries to kill them and attack them out of nowhere. And he is fighting it off with his hammer and, you know, trying to hold it back from them, manages to push Fael out of the way, out of the room, and kind of get out as well. But he notices that, like, the axe, when it drops to the floor, was, you know, inches away from her, and he makes the connection that maybe that this has to do with Rand, and he somehow unintentionally did this, which is interesting. This was a really hard part to read, by the way, and listen to.
Why is that?
I don't know. It almost felt like Perrin was being betrayed.
Okay.
Because it's his axe. It just felt, and I don't know, to be honest with you, if I would feel that way if I hadn't watched the show.
Okay, explain more.
Like with him in the show, in the first episode, where he accidentally kills his wife, and they use that as a device. It's a
really bad pun. He accidentally
axes his wife.
He axes her question.
Oh man.
Go ahead.
But yeah, so he kills her with his axe, and then they use it as this device, right? And so I don't know if I would feel as much of a sense of betrayal from his tool if I hadn't seen that, or if I would just view this as a, like, whoa, like, what's going on? Why would his tools do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, one interesting thing about it, though, is his hammer isn't doing this.
Yes, that is a good point. It's only the axe.
Right. So he's like, and I mean, I guess we'll see it more as we move through this, but he's debating between which he wants to be. Does he want to be the guy who wields the axe, or does he want to wield the hammer? Like, what, the hammer to him is like building and productive member of society and all this stuff, and the axe is just killing and adventure, and
right.
Which one is more important to him,
Right.
which one is more valuable? And this one, I mean, in a way, this is kind of them saying like, hey, the axe is bad, it's trying to kill you. Like the
Right.
hammer is wholesome and good, it's protecting you, it's helping you. So
that's a good point. Good point.
Good.
Okay, so then with Matt's basically been playing cards and dice with this whole time, and he's playing cards right currently with lords and all that. And he's
my soul.
Yeah, he's basically planning to skip town as soon as he has enough money. And he wants to keep them playing and to win more money, basically. And then there is eventually, I think, Adorian, I can't remember how they said his name. He mentions that there's a rumor that you've spell checked me on, that the dragon is going to take Ilian. And that's when, Matt kind of like perks up and everything to their conversations. And then again, there's this rooster crow, and all of a sudden, which I'm assuming is the same one that Perrin heard, all of a sudden these cards, like Matt's holding this card that's got the Amarylline Sea on it, and she stabs him with like a knife or whatever it is. And then,
like she comes off of the card and attacks him.
And then the cards, kind of get larger, and all of the things that are on them start stepping off of them, and he is freaking out, and everyone there is acting like nothing's going on. So he just takes off with his winnings. It's like, see ya, not playing cards with you guys ever again.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're pretty shaken by it, I think. But
yeah.
So one thing I want to point out here too is the thing I always think of is I don't know exactly what the parallel is, but they keep hearing this crow, and I think of, well, and it's interesting too because we just had Easter, and I know that not everyone celebrates Easter and stuff, but one of the aspects of it is the crucifixion of Christ, and like Peter hears the cock crow 3 different times.
Interesting.
And, like he betrays Christ, with the like that's that, like it's a symbol of like betrayal or denial or whatever, and of discord. And I don't know, not that it's significant that it's currently like Easter time here. It's just, I always think of, what was that intentional by Robert Jordan or not? I'm not sure, but
right, which is interesting.
If it was intentional, then what parallel, like Rand is the dragon, and like his most trusted person, like in the Bible, it's his most trusted person is Peter. In this book, his most trusted people are Matt and Perrin.
Right. And they're the ones
and they're kind of getting betrayed in a way.
Right. Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So it's just something I've thought of a couple times. I don't know. We could probably dive deeper into that and see if Robert Jordan actually intended it. But even if he didn't, I mean, part of the interesting thing about the way text is, I mean, you can always just run with things, even if the author didn't intend it, and it's totally valid. That's what I learned in grad school, in grad school, but also in my undergrad. They're like, we used to make the argument of the author never intended that, and the professor is always like, so what? Like, it's in the text. Like, we're going to make arguments based off of text things, not off of intentions of the author. So
right, that's a good. I mean, fair, good point.
So
yeah. Well, okay. So, and that's interesting because then when you're in with Rand's point of view, so it starts with a dream, which I know you love, but Balsama's not in it.
They're totally great.
Mm-hmm.
No, this one's great though.
Right. So this one, he's dreaming that Moraine's, taking him to the Amarylline Sea, and then all of a sudden he is back behind the 2 rivers with Min and Elaine, and they are basically like inviting him to go swimming and strip naked in front of him.
Heck yeah.
And then Egwene sees him and obviously is really upset by this. So he is, deciding to chase after Egwene when they call at him to stay. Min and Elaine's call at him to stay. So now he's like frozen essentially between chasing Egwene or staying with Min and Elaine. Like, what is he can't make up his mind, which is, lovely. And then he realizes that like maybe his relationship with Egwene is coming to an end, and wakes up. Like he's like, this is maybe what this means, who knows. But so anyway, he's obviously in his own room, and then Bear Lane comes in this like white night robe thing that's described all scantily clad essentially.
Heck yeah.
And is trying to stay with. This was just so weird. And she just comes in and is trying to stay with him, and he's like, no, like you should leave, like it's the middle of the night, and she's not leaving. And
right, well, she's trying to seduce him.
Yeah, and totally. And Rand is being Rand and awkward, and then eventually he just like yells at her to,
well, what you gonna do? I mean, she's just like keeps advancing. Like,
oh, totally.
Shouldn't just like punch her? Like you gotta get her out of there, though.
Yeah.
If you don't want her attentions like that, then like GTFO, like get out of there.
Right. Which, and like he does build up to that. But then this is exactly what you were saying. Then he hears this rooster crow.
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times. So there's that. And then he's got these, I guess they're like mirrors, because he's got his own reflections stepping out of them, coming towards him, and draining his essence. So is what the text said. And he basically manages to absorb them. Like he decides, because they've all got a sword, because he's got a sword, so he makes his sword disappear and then is able to absorb each reflection. Well,
he's it's a tactics thing of like he fights and he's like, I can't win like this,
right?
So he gets rid of his sword and they get rid of theirs, and then he's like, all right, now I can win. Right,
exactly. So, which I mean makes sense. Just this whole thing was just such a weird interaction. And then this whole time Berling's still there, and he's like, oh yeah, don't tell anyone what happened here. So just a super weird chapter overall.
Yeah, I don't like it that much, but yeah, it's okay.
Anyway, so the next one in chapter 3, Reflections. Perrin and Fael have decided they're going to go see Rand because they want to talk about the axe incident and confront him about it.
The accident,
if you will. And they run into this Lord Torian who is just bickering with them. He doesn't like how Perrin's treating Fael and looking at Fael and all this nonsense. And then
Perrin doesn't like the way Torian is treating her.
Right. And then they're both
looking at her casually. Yeah.
But then they both start bickering afterwards too about this whole interaction and what happened. And they see that Berlin is there with this Lord Torian guy who eventually like he leaves and then has words with her with Berlin. And Perrin is now kind of like staring. So then Fael starts bickering at him about looking at her. And it's just a whole mess. But Perrin's like, well, what I'm actually noticing about her is she smells like panic and fear.
But all he says is, all he gets out, and this drives me crazy when this thing kind of happens. Like, it's this stupid trope. I don't know, trope. It's this literary device that authors use to create artificial conflict. He says, she smelled like, and he was going to say like fear or whatever, and then he gets interrupted.
Right.
And Fael's like, oh, you like the way she smells, do you? And then he doesn't correct her. Like, he doesn't. And she's like, I don't care if she smelled like blah, 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 blah. Like, blah, 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 just stupid.
Right.
And he could just be like, no. I don't care. Like, she smells terrifying. Like, he could just clear it up, but
doesn't.
Like that device drives me completely crazy, actually. Of like, and like the author's just like, all right, here's how have some conflict, guys. You didn't need to, but here it is.
Here you go. Well, and then exactly, and then Fael's like, no, you can go see Perrin by yourself. I'm going back to the room, and just leaves.
All right.
Yeah.
Please just go forever.
Yeah. Anyway, so Perrin, goes to Rand's room and finds him in there, and he's cut up and obviously very injured and screams for Moiraine to come, and he's trying to tend to some of the wounds, but he can't heal all of them, and Moiraine comes in and just tending to some of the wounds, and she can't heal all of them, and especially there's one on his side that just will not heal, and
it's the same one that he's had for a while.
It just will not do it, and he's thinking this is probably going to be the wound that's going to kill him because it won't heal.
Right. Well, yeah, that's his blood on Shia Ghul, like in the end.
Yep. Yeah. So then while this is going on, Perrin and Ruark are there, and they're discussing similarities between the dragon and He Who Comes with Dawn. And Ruark's basically saying that Rand still has to prove himself, and he will know what to do in order to do that. And then he leaves to go to bed, and Perrin gets the sense that maybe they should leave as well, and because when the Aiel leave here, he doesn't feel like it's going to be safe, and him and he needs to convince Fael to leave.
Right.
So cool. Okay, chapter 4, strings. So now we're back with Tom. Tom is forging letters. Tom is doing Tom things. And he's basically he's trying to create this or help create a plot that's going to weaken some of Rand's like political enemies, because now Rand is governing a nation, so to speak. When Matt shows up, and he notices that Matt doesn't seem like himself, and he just wants to leave. He wants Tom to go with him. They can make money, playing dice and cards, and that's how they can get by. And Tom suggests he should talk to Moiraine or Nynaeve about it, which immediately angers Matt, and he's like, no, I'm gonna leave right now. I'm not talking to them. And Tom convinces him to wait until the morning at the very least. But
right. Well, Matt's been trying to leave, but he can't. It's like it's like Rand's Ta'veren nature is just holding him there.
Yeah. And I think if I remember, Matt says something along those lines too. Like he's been trying to leave, and he feels like he can't.
Yep. And he's like, and Tom, don't say anything about Ta'veren.
Right.
And Tom's like, oh, like, and like Tom is about to say something about Ta'veren, and then it says in the text, like, Tom changed what he was about to say. Like, midway through his sentence.
Decided not to do it.
Yeah.
So that is that. And then in chapter 5 in Questioners, we are now with Egwene. We're hopping all over the place in these chapters, by the way. So it's Egwene.
We're still in the stone, though. Everyone's in Tear.
Everyone is still in the same, locale. We're just hopping around points of view. So you've got Egwene and Nynaeve and Elaine, and Egwene's annoyed because Moiraine is delayed for whatever reason, and they've got Amiko and Joya captured, those two Black Aja, and they want to question them.
Yeah.
And they note that Amiko's been stilled, but they don't really say how or why, or who did it.
Well, they did it by accident.
Did they?
Yeah, like that's when they kind of describe it like it's oblique, but yeah, like in book 3, what they do to her, like they put the shield on her, but they put it on differently, and it kind of like slices through the wrong place, and like it doesn't just take away her ability or her like access, it just slices her ability to channel it all.
So they did it. They stilled her.
Yep, they did.
All right. So she's still
unintentionally, which you know does count, but it's still, yeah, they did it though.
But during all this, Joy basically is trying to convince them that she's like repented and she's come back to the light, and Egwene doesn't buy it for a second at all. And yeah, Joy's telling them about this plan that the Black Ajah have to rescue Maz from time, the false dragon, and they're going to have him pose as Rand and wreak havoc in the lands so that, you know, the nations will come together to destroy the dragon, because they believe it's Rand doing it, and then the Dark One can be freed and come out, you know, and just not have a chosen one to fight him if Rand's gone.
Yeah.
So that's a fun little plot that maybe is true, maybe is not.
Yeah, this whole section, I mean, they're trying to interrogate these guys, but then they have their own problems internally, and Egwene and Nynaeve and, you know, and Elaine, they're all bickering. Silly. And they're bickering, and then they're friends, and then they're bickering, and then they're friends, and then Moraine comes around, and then they're bickering with her and their friends. It's all just, you know.
Yep.
Yay for this chapter.
Yeah, well, like, so in the next one, in Doorways, that's when Moraine gets there.
Oh, okay,
and that's exactly it, though. They like bicker with her, and she's like, well, Joya and Emiko are going to go to Tar Valon for their trial and their execution, and she's frustrated with the girls, and they're frustrated with her, and exactly that, they're all bickering. And you know, they discuss this plan of Rand invading Ilion and whether it's going to be a thing that happens. And eventually, you know, Moraine has to tell them she's sent word to the Amyrlin that about this plot that Joy has talked about to free Maz from Thames. So yeah, it's just a whole bunch of back and forth that doesn't really go anywhere.
Never does.
Yeah. Okay, so then in Playing with Fire, chapter 7, Egwene and Elaine decide they're going to go check on Rand in the morning, and they immediately notice that this chapter, by the way, was super funny, but Egwene notices that like Rand's kind of got like this hardness in expressions, and in his expressions now, and she relates it to the Aiel and to Lan, just how Rand, I guess, is aging or whatever. And she tells him that they're there to help him with his channeling, which immediately makes him suspicious because he knows that women can't teach men how to channel.
Right.
So there's no way that they could actually be there for that. But they do learn in this that he actually is way more powerful than them. And Egwene is like, oh, well, I'm more powerful than Moraine, and I can channel air and water and earth and all of this. And, you know, when you channel, like, don't you feel the source, and don't you do this? And so she tries it, and Elaine tries it, and they realize that he's able to tell when they're, you know, channeling.
Yeah, how can they tell? Testing you.
He gets like these goosebumps when Elaine does it.
Yeah.
So he can tell when they're doing it, and then when he does it, they have like no access of knowing that they can't tell. They can't tell at all. And not only that, but like he does it, and he just is like moving things around in the room and creating all this chaos and like just destruction in the room, and is not even. And this is when Egwene realizes that he's got way more power than them, because he's not even tired about it.
All right. Well, this is a nice little way of demonstrating, like, without like, because we don't know the relative power levels. It's like, okay, he can go toe to toe with some random weirdo who keeps his dreams.
Yeah.
You know, and then he can win a sword fight with another Forsaken and stuff. and then question his sword master abilities or blade master abilities. So stupid. But anyways, he's just I don't know. It's he's questioning. He questions that, but anyways, we don't know how powerful Rand is or how he could be,
right.
like his relative strength. And so it's nice to kind of show like he's immensely powerful.
Right.
And Egwene thought that they'd be comparable, and she's disabused of that. She's just like, wow, I'm nothing compared to him.
Yeah. Exactly. But then also in this chapter, and this is why I was laughing about it, she tells Rand that she doesn't want to marry him. They're not going to go through with this. And I laughed because Rand's immediate reaction is, oh yeah, well, of course you don't want to marry me. I'm the Dragon Reborn, and nobody would want to be tied to that and all of this. And Egwene's like, no, like, I just don't love you. Like,
yeah, she was like, no, you stupid idiot. Like,
yeah, I was
no,
like,
I don't. Yeah. And then she's like, oh, I'm so happy he's taking it so well. And you're like, I don't know. She's so egotistical about it. And condescending. It's annoying.
So anyway, and then in the next chapter in Hard Heads, Elaine decides, well, she's going to tell Rand that she's fond of him, and he's going to tell her that he's fond of her. It's just so awkward. It's the weirdest little interaction. I was like, this is just painful.
Oh yeah, it is. It's great.
So unbelievably awkward. And then so whatever, they've discussed this mildly briefly and have this kiss and whatever.
She peer pressures him into kissing. Yeah. She's like, maybe you don't know how, and he's like, yeah, I do too know how, and he kisses her. Maybe it doesn't sound exactly like that, but it is similar. Awkward though.
It's so awkward. And anyway, so she leaves because these High Lords are coming to meet with him in his room. And she's, thinking she's got 4 days to question Joya and Miko, but she also has 4 days to make sure that Rand is hers and doesn't succumb to like Beryl Lane's, seduction tactics or whatever you want to call it. So then Rand, we switch to his point of view. He's confused about his feelings for Elaine because he also likes Min, and can't make up his mind. But he does order the lords when they visit him.
He needs to go take sanctuary in the tower.
He's not allowed.
There's too many suitors. Oh, that's right.
Too many suitors. Oh man. But so he orders the lords to lower the taxes in the land, and they complain that they're already pretty low and whatnot. And they kind of keep disagreeing with Rand and what he's asking. Eventually his temper kind of flares, and they start to bend to what he is asking them to do. And then we go to Egwene, and she is walking through the halls, and Matt appears, and he is appearing troubled as well. And so he's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a little bit and whatnot. And he's like, well, I've been here, I've been around, I've been playing cards mostly. And by the way, don't you remember the last time you saw me? You strung me up with the power and then stole from me. And I was like, yeah, they did.
Oh, well, this was a different time too. This is like a time they're referencing, like the after the events of book 3. Then in between 3 and 4, they go to his room, and but like they steal from him. They they don't treat him kindly.
No, I can't blame him for having this reaction.
No.
Personally. So, but anyway, Matt ends up telling her that he needs advice on what to do next, and he's refusing to go to Moraine because that's what Egwene suggests. And then she tells him about this twisted door frame, which is the Tara Angreal, and makes him promise, you get answers if you go through it on the other side. And he promises he won't go into it unless his life absolutely depends on it, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So interesting. I'm sure that will go over well.
Oh yeah, it'll totally work out.
Yeah, he's gonna hold that promise for sure. For sure. Okay, so chapter 9, decisions. So Matt's basically been trying for 3 days, trying to get people to play dice or cards or anything, but everyone is avoiding him, and the maids in the town are saying basically it's just not safe to be alone with him. And Tom's essentially disappeared on him, and Perrin's off dealing with Perrin problems, and he basically feels like he's out on his own, except Moraine is always where he is. So that's interesting.
Yeah, he hates that.
Yeah, he hates that. And then
loves hates.
And Perrin this whole time he keeps seeing Matt as well from his point of view, but isn't interacting with him, because this entire time he's trying to find proof or something that he can use to convince Faile to leave Tyr and leave him and the danger of him, because he's convinced that he's going to get her killed, essentially. So he's just trying to get rid of her. And then Egwene and Nynaeve are continuing to interrogate Joya and Miko for whatever reason, which they're not making any headway on whether or not this plot with Mazrim Taim is true. And Elaine is spending time with Rand and giving him advice on how to govern a nation when he asks for it. And then
which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I thought so too, because she's got that information or that knowledge.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Rand, he keeps meeting with these High Lords and essentially keeping them busy so that they don't make a plan to kill him. And then he's having all of these thoughts about, he's noticing the markings on his hands and remembering prophecy and all this kind of stuff. And then Selene shows up and interrupts his train of thought.
Hello there, Selene.
Right?
Hello there.
So she admits to being Lanfear, and she's one of the chosen. They have this whole conversation. And she essentially, I think if I correct me if I'm wrong, but in order for her to prove to him that she's one of the chosen, she basically shields him, and it prevents him from accessing the source. Like, he can't use his powers.
Yeah, she slaps the shield over him. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so then she's insisting that like he is hers to have, and the others fear him and where he'll fall on the power scale, so to speak. And they're having this whole conversation, and while they are, he notices this man kind of slip in with a knife, so this gray man, and he instinctively pushes her out of the way to kill this gray man.
Well,
and then
it's super creepy the way the gray man, like, he's like looking at all these different things across the room. He's like, okay, the thing on the fireplace, the thing on the bed, or whatever, and then the man sneaking up with a knife. All right, the bookcase with the thing. It's just like the gray man is just part of the. It's part of the
like the background.
Yeah, the furniture kind of, and then eventually he's like, wait, there's a guy with the what?
Yeah.
What the what?
But he kills them, and then kind of like leaves Lanfear behind there and just continues to step outside, and the chapter ends into chapter 10.
Yeah, and he opens the door to a sight of madness or something like that,
like chaos.
Yep.
So in chapter 10, the stone stands. So he heads outside, and he just sees like a pile of dead gray men and Aiel on the ground. And there's shadow spawn attacking, and there's Murdral and all this. And he just, is moving deeper and deeper into the stone. And while he does that, he sees Moraine and Lan fighting, and he sees Perrin and Faile fighting. And then he notices that the Dark Friends seem to be kind of like scared of the Trollocs, and then sees Trollocs killing Trollocs, and just all this weird stuff.
I mean, just because Trollocs get into this blood rage, and he just sees all of that, just chaos.
Well, so he ends up fighting I think it's like a trio of Trollocs, and they're also fighting each other. And then while this is happening, afterwards he sees two like a pair of Murdral fighting each other, like down the hall kind of thing. So it's everyone's just fighting each other. It's very, very weird and just chaos. Like it's chaotic, the whole thing.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Yeah. But then Lanfear shows up again and is basically like berating him for the risks he's taken and the decisions he's made.
Well, and rightly so. She's like, this could be a distraction. Like one of the other Forsaken is clearly behind this. They could be stealing Kalendor right now.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, she's throwing him around with air, or he throws her around with air. Like they just are tossing each other around. And she's like, you can face me or you can retrieve Kalendor. Like you've got a couple of options here. And he chooses to retrieve Kalendor. So he runs back to his room to go get the sword. Which he does. And then he ends up channeling lightning and has it, kind of crash down through all of the shadow spawn to kill them. And that's when Moiraine comes back after everyone's kind of, the chaos is sort of stopped. And she stops, I think it's Lan that's going to check on Rand to see how Rand is. And she kind of stops him before getting too close and asks him if he is okay. And then I thought this was really interesting. They have this whole conversation because he sees this girl on the floor, on the ground, who's, she's got blood on her dress and is obviously dying. And they have this whole conversation about Moiraine and Rand about how, Rand wants Moiraine to heal her and help her because he can't heal her. He doesn't know how to do it. And Moraine's like, she's past being helped. Like you can't do this. And it was so well said that she just is like, you're not the creator. Like you can't fix this. It's just, that's it. Anyway, I just really enjoyed that. Like she had to really drive that point home for him. Like you can have all of this power, but you can't do as you want and do, you can't fix this scenario. So yeah, thoughts?
Oh, you're right. This part always creeps me out because it's like he channels through Kalendor, and because he has so much of the power in him, so first off, it kind of alludes to like he creates all these weaves that he doesn't know how to do because he's got so much power. He's just able to
do it.
Yeah, like he's able to innovate and figure it out, which is kind of a theme throughout the rest of the series. But then he also he almost becomes a different person in a way, like.
And I think that's why she stops Lan from going up to him right away. Like I think she sees that in him, that he's not quite himself.
Well, yeah, it's just creepy though. And
Super.
he's trying to bring the little girl back to life, and it's a good thing to show also, like there's no way they can you can't really revive people. Once someone's dead, then they're dead. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good thing to highlight that and to show that not even Rand can do it. Like,
so one thing that you didn't cover in any of the discussion here that he had with Lanfear was she's trying to get one of the Forsaken to teach him.
Oh yes, that's right. I forgot that.
So, well, it's just an important thing to note in the future, like, his ignorance and, is he going to be able to can he find someone who can teach him? Because, the girls tried to show him or work with him. They knew that they couldn't really, but like, yeah, there's just issues. I don't know. Just an interesting thing for like he doesn't know how to channel, really. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's making huge naive mistakes, like just leaving Kalendor unguarded. And he needs someone to help him.
And that's another thing that she says to him when they're like, tossing each other around and all this chaos. She's like, now that Kalendor is free, any male channeler can use it. Like it doesn't specific, just because you freed it doesn't mean it only answers to you, kind of thing. Like anyone can grab it.
Well, and that's what Samael, or what was it? Not Samael. Bilal in the last book. That was his whole thing. He's like, take Kalendor, because then he could take Kalendor from Rand once Rand had like unlocked it, kind of.
Right, exactly. So it's a good point, because he's just making all of these mistakes.
All of them. Dumbass.
Yeah, so he ends up asking just to make sure everyone's good, and Lan kind of explains how the Trollocs entered, and then he kind of just collapses out of exhaustion, I guess. So yeah. Moraine kind of, she partially heals him and makes sure that he is tired enough that he can sleep.
Yeah. So who's the most annoying character?
Oh, honestly, Egwene and Nynaeve and Elaine really annoyed me.
Yep.
I don't know what it was. I was just like, you guys are doing nothing. Like, you're okay. Actually, that's a lie. I do know what it was. I felt like they were acting higher up and with more power than I thought they should have, and more authority than I thought they should have been. Yeah. Like I was like, why are you acting this way? Like, you're acting like you have the authority to make all of these decisions and know what you're doing. And I was like, you guys just don't know anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's always driven me so crazy, when someone who doesn't know anything acts like they know everything. And it's just like they're trying to lord it over you, and you're like, you realize that what you're doing isn't fooling a single person. Like, you're just being a dumbass. Like, there's no other truth to what's going on other than you're just acting a fool. And that they're kind of, I mean, they're given a certain level of authority just because they tell everyone that they're Aes Sedai.
Right.
But then they give Aes Sedai a pretty bad name, really. I mean, they can't keep their faces straight. Like, Nynaeve's like, I'm Aes Sedai, yanking her braid out of anger, just stealing from Matt and curse. Like,
yeah, that really annoyed me.
Yeah, and you know, they still haven't like said thank you to him for saving him or anything. And it's like this, they're just doing whatever they want. And Egwene's like, oh, he's such a child, such a immature, stupid brat. Like, I hate Matt, basically. Like, you know, she doesn't actually, it seems like maybe she cares about him a little bit, but she's so full of her own like superiority to him, kind of, that like it just drowns out everything else. It doesn't seem like she kind of helps him, like she tells him about the Terangrial or whatever, but she's, you know, it's like, oh, okay, well, fine, maybe I could find something that could help you, but it doesn't, nothing that they do seems genuine. And it, you know, they pinch Rand, you know, like they just treat Rand like he's nothing. And, you know, so, or like he pinches them lightly, and then they just like, I don't know.
Well, they pinch him enough that he needs to be healed.
Yeah, like a super overreaction.
Yeah.
Like he just does it like as a joke to them, kind of, and they're like, the gall of him, like, oh, I deserve to be treated. And I'm like, okay, everyone should be treated on a certain level of dignity or whatever, but I mean, this is
ridiculous.
Their level of self-importance is ridiculous. The other one I would say for the Mac would be Fael. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. She was annoying.
She just really irks me in this one because of reasons, and
good reasons.
Yeah, not to give spoilers or anything, but that may continue into the next section too. We'll see.
Lovely. Well, I didn't think she would get over it that quickly.
Oh yeah, she does. She's anyways. All right, so most sus character.
Out of these chapters, I would say Elida.
Okay, I think that seems reasonable.
Yeah, Lanfear, I'm like, the more that she shows up, the more I'm like, what? I'm more intrigued by what she has to say. So I I don't know if I would call her sus.
Oh, she's already forsaken. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah.
It's explicit that she's sus.
Yeah, but I'm still intrigued by what she has to say. Elida, I'm like, what are you up to?
Yeah, no, Lanfear, it's like, is there a possibility that you're good, Lanfear?
Yeah. I'm like, well, why are you so focused on Luz there and being yours? So anyway, yeah, I definitely would say Elida.
Okay. Elida, it shall be.
All right. So then next week we'll do another 10.
All right, another 10. I think that there's like 60 something, right?
I think so. I didn't even look, to be honest with you. I guess I should have.
Yeah, I'm looking now. Let me, hold on. This is the wrong book.
Oh, according to the date the author.
Oh, you guys could hear just a little glimmer of it. There's 58
in
this book. So, all right. Yeah, that'll take us 6 weeks to get through. That'll be good.
Yeah. All right. So we'll do chapters 11 to 20 next week.
Very good.
Cool. Any other final thoughts?
This book is the slowest start ever. Like, we're hours in and they're still in tier.
Yeah, I will say it was like the first few chapters I was like, man, these are taking a while to get going, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, we're going somewhere.
No, right after this it starts really moving, and that's when it's just like, you're not going to want to stop.
All right, I like that. Perfect. All right, so
yeah,
I guess we'll be back next week,
I suppose.
Right. All right, well, thank you everybody for listening. May you always find water and shade.